Washington. I grew up here as a young person in the city of Newark, and I have the distinct pleasure of being its Chief Executive Officer since 2019. We're here to talk about a very important moment in our nation's history. The Boys and Girls Club has been here for 83 years serving young people, and what our senators on Capitol Hill have done has continued to push things forward to make sure that our families have the things they need. Our young people are here receiving our services each day, and I'm so happy to be able to introduce Senator Bob Menendez to kick us off this morning. Senator?
All right, thank you. Well, thank you, Amir, very much for hosting us, and more importantly for what you and your staff do at the Boys and Girls Club of Newark, an outstanding organization that helps shape the lives of young people. So thank you very much. Couldn't think of a better place to do this in my dear colleague's hood. So I understand just about a mile from here. So we are here at, and I appreciate all, before I say that, I appreciate all of those who have joined us in advocacy, some of which you'll hear from today. We are here at the Newark Boys and Girls Club to celebrate the start of the most ambitious effort in decades to lift children out of poverty and give working families a leg up in this economy. Last week, the enhanced child tax credits we expanded and made monthly in the American Rescue Plan began hitting the bank accounts of parents nationwide, including those of more than 1.5 million children here in New Jersey. Today, you'll hear firsthand from New Jersey parents about what these payments will mean for their families. I want to thank all for taking time out of their busy schedules. I appreciate Mary Cogan, the Vice President of Advocates for Children of New Jersey, Make the Road, and advocates and other advocates who are joining us today. And then I really want to start off by saying that my colleague, Senator Cory Booker, was a relentless advocate for expanding the child tax credit. I remember him getting up in the Democratic caucus time and time again to say how this could be transformational in the lives of young children and their families. And that's exactly, his vision is exactly what is taking place today. So, Cory, thank you for your tremendous advocacy. It's part of why this is in law. Cory and I both championed a bill called the American Families Act, which became the blueprint for this provision in the American Rescue Plan. The rescue package expanded the child tax credit to $3,600 per child under the age of 6 and $3,000 per child between the ages of 6 and 17. We also made it fully refundable because under the status quo, 27 million of the nation's poorest children were ineligible for the full benefit. It made no sense. The children most in need, including 560,000 in New Jersey, were left behind. And because raising a child involves daily expenses that don't wait for annual tax refunds, we arranged for the Treasury Department to send monthly payments. So for parents with a newborn at home and a toddler in daycare, that's $600 a month to help pay for diapers or baby formula or childcare and all the other expenses that goes into raising a young child. And for children between 6 and 17 years of age, that $250 monthly payment could go towards clothing, an after-school activity, a laptop, or even just saving for college. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have spent nearly 4+ decades in public service. I know history when I see it. And this is a truly historic moment that will help level the playing field for children who do not grow up with all the advantages that are enjoyed by children born into wealthier families. I've been proud to be part of this effort. It reminds me, it took me back to the politics in the first place of why I got involved in public life. I grew up poor in a tenement. I was a high school student who qualified for the honors program, but my family couldn't afford the required books. and many others like me were in the same boat. That's why I led a campaign to reform the school board in my hometown and ultimately won a seat on it, to level the playing field, to give everyone a fair shot. That's why I support making these enhanced tax credits permanent today. I have to remind you that not a single Senate Republican joined us in support of these tax credits. Not one. Not a single one. They had no problem handing out trillion-dollar tax cuts to big corporations that often get away with paying no taxes at all. But when the time came to help working people whose lives were turned upside down by a pandemic and its economic fallout, they cowered in the corner and made clear where their priorities lie. The party that used to talk so much about quote-unquote family values showed once again how little they actually value families. The only reason we're celebrating a policy today that will reduce poverty, probably the biggest single modern history legislation to reduce child poverty in America and help more families get by, is that the American people elected a Democratic majority in the United States Senate and put a man named Joe Biden in the White House. Now we're working to make these monthly payments permanent, because let's face it, the struggles that families have will endure long after this pandemic has finally been overcome. Raising a child has never been more expensive. Consider a family of 4 earning the median income in New Jersey of about $80,000. They will spend between $12,000 and $13,000 on each child every year, according to the USDA data. That's nearly a third of their income. For decades now, wages have failed to keep up with soaring child care, health care, housing, and education costs. And for too long, America has been home to some of the highest child poverty rates in the entire industrialized world. Even here in New Jersey, consistently ranked the best place in America to raise a child, more than 377,000 children either live in poverty or close to it. I should know that the federal poverty level is, for a family of 4, makes just basically under $26,000 a year. But in high-cost states like New Jersey, research suggests a family of 4 needs at least $48,000 just to get by. That means nearly a third of New Jersey's children live in families struggling to make ends meet, and more than 2/3 of those children are children of color. As the son of immigrants who came to this country with nothing, the fact that I could go from a tenement in Union City to the United States Senate is a testament to the American dream. But today, an American child born into the bottom 20% of income has just a 7.5% chance, of making it into the top 20%. And for children of color, that's even lower. We cannot sit by while the American dream turns into an American myth, because there's a big difference between a dream and a myth. You can work towards a dream, but you can't work towards a myth. Some may say we cannot afford to lift more children out of poverty. I say we cannot afford not to. To restore the great promise of this nation, we must begin with our families. And the person who has been at the epicenter of making that a reality is my colleague, my friend in the United States Senate, Senator Cory Booker.
I cannot tell you what it means to be here. As Bob said, this is my neighborhood. I live about a mile away, and just to respect the Boys and Girls Club here in the Central Ward, it has now literally been here for 2 generations. There are parents who came up through the Boys and Girls Club that now have their children here as well. This is one of the great institutions in the state of New Jersey, and it's wonderful to be here. And it is wonderful to be here with Bob Menendez. Folk know that he is our senior senator, but Bob and I have been partners now for going on, this October will be 8 years of him and I working together. We have been able to accomplish a lot for our state for very difficult days. We got there as a partnership. I got to join him in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, and we were able to bring hundreds of millions of dollars back to help families from Newark to Ocean County, all over this state. Bob serves on committees. He and I complement each other. Bob has helped deliver and lead incredible monies for affordable housing that helped me, when I was mayor, build projects that support quality housing complexes all over the city of Newark. Bob and I have done a lot of things together. Money for our public schools that I am so proud of. We've done a lot of things together in the pandemic to make sure our hospitals have the resources they need, from the PPE to the ventilators, to help our communities. But there is nothing that he and I have done as your partners in the United States Senate that will perhaps have as great of an impact as what we are talking about here right now. There are young people behind me. God created them with an incredible genius, with their own particular capacity to achieve their dreams. But we know that every great child, every great mind needs nurturing soil in which to live. But unfortunately, all over our state, the anxiety that families face is growing higher. Middle-class wages for a generation have been stagnant. Our country's costs have been going up, and more families are struggling to make ends meet, finding themselves with more month at the end of their money than money at the end of their month. I hear it all over the place. Parents having to make difficult decisions just to get the money to afford to buy a pair of cleats so their kid can play football. Can I get an amen? Amen. We are at a point now where parents are having to rob Peter to pay Paul. And what is stunning, in the wealthiest nation in the world, we actually have the highest child poverty rates. We're fourth from the last of the 36 richest nations. All of our competitor peer nations have something called a child allowance, where parents are struggling. They know you support the parents, you support the family, the children thrive. Every other competitive nation has paid family leave. Every other competitive nation has affordable child care. But here in America, we put stress and strain and anxiety on parents, and worse, we already know from the scientists who look at children's brains, children who grow up in that kind of anxiety constantly, it inhibits their development. Don't tell me you love your children, but then support policies that rob them of their genius. And so Bob and I fought over past years and watched, as Senator Menendez said, we just passed 4 years ago a $2 trillion tax cut where over 65% of the benefits went to the top 5% richest people in America. While child poverty in this country got worse. And so as soon as we elected a new president, and a little nod to Georgia, and got Ossoff and Warnock elected and had a majority in the Senate, and my friend Bob Menendez went from being a ranking member to a chairman in the Senate, he and I went to work and said, if there's anything we can do in all these big tax plans, all these big recovery plans, let's center children and families first in that. And it's going to be expensive, but there's no better investment than you can make in America than investing in children. And that's not rhetoric, that's actually fact. Every dollar you spend in America raising a child above the poverty line, no exaggeration, returns $7 to our economy. Because children above the poverty line don't go to the hospital as much, don't have run-ins with the police as much. They nurture their brains and they have higher lifetime earnings, which returns more tax dollars to the United States of America. And so of all the things Senator Menendez and I have done in the Congress for the state of New Jersey, this is epic. It is historic. It'll be the greatest cut in child poverty in the state of New Jersey, in the history of our government. It'll cut it by half, lifting children and families out of economic anxiety. As Bob said, if you are a parent with 3 young kids, that is a check for $900 a month. And that's not going to go to bonbons and cable. That's going to go to diapers, healthy food, a laptop for the home, maybe giving their child an experience to go to the beach and the shore down south. The numbers, as Senator Menendez said, are stunning. This child tax credit will bring into the New Jersey economy over $250 million. Let me be exact, $373 million more dollars going into the pockets of families who will use them. And guess what will happen to our overall economy with this investment in New Jersey? You invest $373 million, our local businesses will do better. More jobs are going to be created. The average payment in New Jersey is going to be, for every household, is $394. Between 80 and 90% of New Jersey families will benefit from this. We have over 1.5 million children who are going to be benefited from this program. This is a great day. This is an epic day. For the next year, starting on July 15th, I've been hearing the stories already. You're going to hear from them today. But let me just tell you from my heart, as a guy that has lived in the Central Ward of Newark for over 20 years, just walking the neighborhood this weekend, people coming up to me, some of them surprised, some of them shocked. I just talked to a woman who was worried that her Social Security payments aren't going to go that long enough. And my brother over here, you know this, that we have grandparents raising their grandchildren who are going to get this money. This is, for the first time, I have seen my country as a whole say that we are going to turn the rhetoric of loving our children into a policy that shows it in abundance. This is what John Lewis talked about creating a more beloved community. This is the wealthiest nation in the world, treating its greatest wealth with reverence and respect, and that of its children. And I'm telling you what, this is for a year. But Senator Bob Menendez, if I'm going to be in a fight, this is my partner. We are going back into the trenches of Washington because our goal is to fight, and it's going to be tough because Senator Menendez, you said it, the Republicans are aligned against what he and I want to do. We want to make this permanent. If we make this permanent, we join the world's other wealthy nations in taking care of our children. That's the fight now. If you are liking this, if you think this is needed, if you support this, then please join us in this fight, not to make this a one-year epic historic policy, but make it a permanent policy that the United States of America, in word and deed, loves its children. I want to bring up now somebody who is a neighbor, who is going to speak to the impact on her family. I bring up Stacy Smith Reagan, a Newarker from Brick City.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Stacy Smith Reagan, and with my husband and our 2 young sons, who are ages 8 and 9, we live in Newark, New Jersey. And we just got our first monthly child tax credit payment of $500. That's $250 a month for each of my boys. I can't tell you how much this means to our family, and now being able to get these payments monthly really helps us meet our expenses. Like many other children, my sons had remote learning for over a year and did not get to see their friends or family members due to COVID. My son suffered as a result of the shutdown, again, like many children in this state. My oldest son began showing symptoms of anxiety every time I left the house. He was afraid that mommy was going to get COVID and die. So we are using the child tax credit to send them to a summer camp this year that will help them to start to socialize again and receive academic enrichment. This is so important because of all that they have missed this past year. As we all know, camps are expensive, especially a camp with a registered nutritionist and a licensed clinical social worker. I am thankful to be receiving the child tax credit because this money will help my family pay for the camp, provide my children with academic enrichment and the things they need to help them get back to a normal life. Thank you, Senator Menendez and Senator Booker and other members of Congress who voted for the child tax credit. This money will help so many parents like me. I urge Congress and hope that they will make this tax credit permanent. Thank you.
I'm really excited now for this incredible Mays Landing residence. I bring up Jennifer Crowell. Am I pronouncing that right?
It's
Kroll.
Yes,
Thank you. All right.
thank you,
And she brought her bodyguards with her, her
Yes.
muscle. It's safe in Newark. You don't need these tough guys.
They're along for the ride to meet the senators today. So, Senator Menendez, Senator Booker, and ladies and gentlemen of the press, it's an honor to speak with you today. My name is Jennifer Kroll, and I am a Mays Landing resident, and I'm the mother of 4. I drove all the way here today because I couldn't pass up this opportunity to speak to all of you about how the new monthly child tax credit payments have impacted my life and the life of my family. My oldest child is in college, but I have 3 boys at home under the age of 17, 2 of whom are with me here today. I received my first payment of $750 last Monday, and I, like millions of families in the U.S., am counting on that money. You see, I've worked in retail my whole life and worked my way up to management positions. It's hard work, but it allows me to support my household. As the primary wage earner in a middle-class family, a lot of my decisions are based on finances. What we're having for dinner, which stores we can shop at, whether we can see the new Black Widow movie in theaters, or whether we have to wait until October to stream it. But just last week, I made a huge financial decision when I decided to leave a higher-paying but dead-end job to accept a position with a company that's a lower salary now, but one that will offer me growth, good benefits, and more long-term financial stability. That decision was not easy, but knowing that I have the monthly child tax credit payments provides me some comfort, knowing that that will help close the gap in my wages until my hard work and determination can take my salary back up to where it was. Monthly payments make sense for American families, many of whom struggle to pay expenses. For me, it's the grocery bill. My 16-year-old son has celiac disease, which requires a strict gluten-free diet. If you've ever shopped for gluten-free foods, you know that items can be 10 times more than regular. So that's what I'm counting on the money for. For other families, it may be child care, medical expenses, educational expenses, utilities, all of which occur throughout the year and not just once during tax season. And none of these expenses are going to end in 2022. So, Senators Booker and Menendez, I appreciate your support and ask that you continue to work with President Biden to make this a permanent option for families just like mine so that we can continue to have a little extra support as we raise this next generation of leaders. Thank you.
Fellas, you want to say anything? No? Okay. Jennifer, thank you for that. You literally just brought a lightning bolt of memories back to me. My mom, during summers, would bring me to see Star Wars, E.T. She made the mistake of bringing me to Jaws. I didn't go to the beach for the longest time. But those are precious memories. Every child deserves those kind of experiences. And I'm so happy for you sharing that. I'm now excited that we're going to go to New Brunswick with a great resident here to speak. Jimmy Fallon is here, the famous Tim Fallon, I'm sorry. That's your son. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Senator Menendez and Senator Booker for inviting me here to say a few words about the child tax credit policy that's been enacted. First of all, thank you for your leadership on this legislation that benefits people like myself. My name is Tim Fallon. I'm a resident of the city of New Brunswick. I'm the father of a 10-year-old son named Thomas Fallon. And being a single parent presented significant challenges from the time I brought him home at 3 months of age until the present time. And the coronavirus crisis presented more new challenges as well as complicating existing ones. My son is a special needs child with learning disability, so the last 2 years of remote and hybrid learning have been difficult for both of us. We were able to rise to the challenges presented by this, and my son was one of only a few in his class that has advanced to the 5th grade. And now we find ourselves hopeful. We're, moving towards, him continuing his education and me finding a new career, a new job, as we exit this worst part of the health crisis, hopefully. So, we've been aided by the extensions to unemployment and the enhanced unemployment. And the child tax credit policy is another progressive initiative that will benefit people like myself. In past years, I have had to take on additional debt at the end of the year, knowing that my anticipating a refund from the IRS and the child tax credit. So going forward, we can work more easier within a budget through this policy. And so I'd just like to thank you again for your leadership in this, and I hope we will continue to benefit from your leadership for the several years. Thank you.
So I think that people often forget what Tim talks about. There is literally hundreds of thousands of parents in New Jersey that are taking care of special needs kids, whether it's kids with rare disorders or autism, and they also are facing incredible challenges. Senator Menendez and I for long have thought about creative policy ways to help them, but this is something that will help every working class, middle class family in the state of New Jersey, especially those who struggle so nobly taking care of beautiful children. And so I'm really grateful. I'm also just want a quick thanks to my staff for having at least one other bald man, period, come here and speak. Tim, thank you for making me not feel inadequate. I keep trying to get Menendez to shave as well. Now we come back full circle to Newark, and I'm just really happy to have our last speaker be Jessica Vargas.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Vargas. I am a single mother of 4 here in Newark, New Jersey. My kids are currently enrolled in La Casa de Don Pedro through their school McKinley and have been a part of that program for years. My oldest daughter, Samaya, actually graduated from McKinley and is now attending Arts High School. She is a peer mentor for La Casa de Don Pedro and has been for 2 years, and her sister is excited to follow her footsteps. Child tax credit means a lot to my family right now, to me and my family, as I was forced to take a medical leave of absence from my full-time job back in March of this year. In the beginning, I was financially okay as I had money saved up, but as time goes by, I went from being financially okay to being on a tight budget, extremely tight budget. So the fact that the child tax credit was approved and was sent out the way that they said it was going to happen just took a huge load off of my shoulders. As I can continue to pay for my bills and keep providing for my kids, food and shelter. I really want to thank the senators and the congressmen and all the women and men that are involved in pushing, for this child tax credit. And, just let's continue to fight and pushing, to make it permanent. Thank you. You guys want to talk? You sure?
I'm going to bring Senator Menendez back up to lead us through some Q&A on topic, please.
Well, two quick. Cory is terrorizing these young people, asking them if they want to say something. So, I want to, on behalf of both of us, I want to thank all of the parents who came. I'm very impressed. Everybody is definitely 21st century. They're all using their phones to do their remarks. So I'm still in the Cro-Magnon stage. I'm using my paper. So, but I'm very impressed, and we appreciate all who have joined us in the advocacy. Our friends from La Casa de Don Pedro are here, and its leader, as well as others as well. And with that, And I want to also thank Nadia Hussein, who's the Senior Director for Moms Rising and one of my Women's Achievement awardees. Okay, with that, Cory and I will take some on-topic questions first. Yes.
So let's be clear. The price tag is high. This one-year program, and again, the numbers keep being adjusted one way or another, but let's call it $1 trillion. $1 trillion. But I will remind you that the money invested in this will have a multiplier effect. Number one, the children that will be risen above poverty will cut down. We as a society are too often comfortable with paying for prisons and paying medical costs as opposed to investing in children for their success as opposed to having to invest in their failure. Number two, it helps our economy overall. And then number three, that $1 trillion price tag puts us in line with every one of our peer nations, from Canada to Germany, from South Korea to the United Kingdom. So I see as a country, after spending $5 trillion for wars in the Middle East, arguably that we shouldn't have been in, a Trump tax cut that blew a $2 trillion hole reoccurring in our budget, giving tax cuts to the wealthiest of wealthy and corporations, ones they didn't even ask for, that this is something that we as a society not only can afford, but can't afford not to do because of the cost we have right now of being so far behind and not investing in our children.
And in that 7-to-1 return that Cory spoke about, so it costs $1 trillion, we get $7 trillion back. I mean, just think about that. Over the time, we get $7 trillion back. Healthier young people, greater educated young people, less at risk young people. What's the benefit of that in terms of cost? So it's half of the Trump tax cuts, but we're talking about a whole generation of young Americans who can really prosper and do much better for themselves and for the nation. Anyway. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, just listening to the parents and what a difference it is already making in their life, and it just started last week. What a difference it's made in their life. You know, the purpose of public service at the end of the day is to change the course of events for those who you get to represent both at home and, in my case, in my other role abroad. This is the ultimate opportunity to change the course of events in the lives of the next generation of Americans and in the lives of their parents who are nurturing them. So in my mind, this is the epitome of what public service is all about. It's what makes it worthwhile to be able to do this, to change the course of events for the better, and to create probably, the single biggest government program to dramatically end child poverty. That's a good legacy. That's a good legacy for the nation and certainly for those of us who are serving. And Cory, join me if you want on any of these things. Sí. Bueno, este crédito contributivo que familias están recibiendo desde la semana pasada, $300 para cada niño menos de la edad de 6, $250 para eso que sean más de la edad de 6 por niño, por cada niño a la familia. Y el senador Booker fue uno de los anfitriones más fuertes de este esfuerzo, que estamos celebrando hoy con estas familias que han dicho la diferencia que hacen en su vida. El poder tener mejor salud, el poder de tener una oportunidad educativa que de otra forma no hubieran tenido. El problema en el medio de una pandemia de tener una computadora en la casa para que puedan hacer sus estudios. Esos son algunos de los ejemplos. Lo que nosotros queremos hacer es esta realidad que va a tener el efecto de reducir la pobreza entre niños en este país, incluyendo 1.5 millones de niños en este estado, de levantarlo de la pobreza y ponerlo en una oportunidad económica de prosperidad. Eso va a costar, para hacerlo permanente, casi $1 trillón. Pero es solamente mitad de lo que los republicanos se gastaron en los cortes del presidente Trump. 2 trillones a los más ricos del país. Si podemos darle $2 trillones a los más ricos del país, podemos gastarnos $1 trillón en esta juventud que es el futuro de la nación. Y como dijo el senador Booker, por cada dólar que actualmente lo gastamos en este programa de ayuda de niños, recibimos el beneficio de $7 en beneficio económico por cada dólar que lo gastamos. Quiere decir, gastándonos $1 trillón, vamos a recibir 7 trillones en beneficio. Menos problemas de salud, menos problemas policíacos, más productividad, mejor educación, mejor trabajo, más contribución para la nación. Eso es lo que está envuelto en este programa. Y para niños, sobre todo minoritarios, este programa es el programa más significativo que ha pasado en nuestra historia para levantar a esos niños de la pobreza. You want to try Spanish?
Sí, rápidamente. La abundancia de nuestro país es nosotros niños, pero ahora el nivel de pobreza es demasiado alto. Esta es una oportunidad para investir en la abundancia y vamos a recibir blessings, ¿cómo se dice? Bendiciones, gracias, por nuestro país. So, voy a luchar duro para continuar este programa. Tengo confianza en esta lucha. Es posible, podemos tener una victoria por nuestros niños. Pero hoy, este año, es un año de feliz, es un año de la palabra amor, es la realidad en un programa de nuestro país. So, tengo mucho orgulloso hoy, pero necesito continuar la lucha. And I want to say really quickly, this is my hope. When we started Social Security, it eliminated significantly poverty amongst our seniors. Many of the Republicans in the Senate and past Republican presidents came at that program. They tried to privatize it. They tried to seriously limit it. Of course, the Democrats were resisting that, but the real people that stopped that from happening were American people. Because whether you're a Republican elder, whether you're a Democratic elder, independent elder, you don't want to see the program that did so much to end elder poverty in our country ever end. This is my hope, is that for the next year, all across America, regardless of your political party, families are going to be rejoicing in this stress relief, in this pressure relief, and the ability to do for their children. And at the end of this year, there'll be a chorus all around our country saying, don't stop this program. We are seeing children succeed at levels that we never imagined in terms of just having more for families, middle-class families, working-class families, struggling families to have. That's my hope at the end of this year.
Excuse me, y un comentario más. Tenemos que decir que este programa recibió, es realizado solamente por los votos demócratas. No hubo un republicano, ni uno en el Senado, que votó para estos niños. Ni uno. Y creo que para el partido que supuestamente era de valores familiares, ¿qué valor familiar más importante es que tener la oportunidad de mejorar la vida de estos niños? Muy importante reconocer. Yes, I'm sorry. How they're not used frivolously? We believe, listen, we do a whole host of programs. We don't ask seniors how they use their Social Security check. We don't ask those on disability how they use their disabilities. We don't ask, we don't ask the hedge fund operators how they use their carried interest benefits. We don't ask the oil and gas industry how they use the billions in tax breaks they get. So we trust. You heard all of these families. What did they say they were doing with the money? They were doing with the money the essentials that a child should have, whether that is about clothing, whether that's about a laptop, or even the experience. Sometimes I wonder, why is it that children who have greater income, families with greater incomes, they can enjoy the Jersey Shore, which we consider a birthright of every New Jerseyan and a national treasure. But a poor child who gets a break with a child tax credit, they shouldn't be able to go to the Jersey Shore? I think they should. They should understand that birthright, and they should understand that national treasure. Any other questions on the child tax credit? Okay. Any other questions? I understand there are some off-topic questions. We'll take one or two, and if not, we're happy to close it. Yes. La situación de Cuba. Yeah.
Lo siento. Can we take him, and then I'm going to have
Yes,
to
of course. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I have an opinion on it.
You have an opinion? Yeah. I'll probably share your opinion.
So this is frustrating to me as a New Jerseyan that we bring so much wealth to the state of New York. New Jersey workers, when they work and earn their living in New York, they pay taxes to that city, come back and pay taxes in Newark, in New Jersey. Why would I ever support, I just can't support my residents who commute paying more money to commute. This is a way to tax New Jerseyans at the expense of New York State not doing what it should be doing for its ridership or pricing or what have you. So I understand that there's a larger environmental concern here, but I deeply oppose this idea that my New Jerseyans should have to pay even more money for congestive pricing. Congestive pricing. There's a better way to go about this than laying more costs on New Jersey residents. I'm going to surrender the press conference to Senator Menendez. My brother's up at Kessler. I'm going to run up there. Behind you, I'm going to take one or two selfies while we talk about Cuba. I have strong beliefs that are all been informed by Bob Menendez. So,
just one other. I totally agree with Cory on congestion pricing. Look, there's a better way to do this, and not do it on the backs of New Jerseyans. And I am sure that Governor Murphy is going to work to ensure. I've had conversations with him. I am sure that Governor Murphy is going to work to ensure, with the Governor of New York and the Mayor of New York, that this is not done on the back of New Jerseyans. Listen, the revenue that is flowing to New York from New Jerseyans already. They pay a city tax. They pay tolls already. They buy their lunch there. Their businesses receiving the benefit. Come on. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. And we got past the time. There was a time, I remember, that we were into retaliatory actions when New York tried to do these types of things. And we got into a better day in which we understood the synergies of our economy. And we left those behind. I don't want to return to that. New Jersey is very capable of reciprocating with actions. We have more NASDAQ trades done in New Jersey than in New York. We have plenty of New Yorkers in reverse commutes to New Jersey doing work here. We don't want to get into that. We generate 20% of GDP for the entire nation from the region. Let's continue to work regionally together to achieve our mutual goals. But if necessary, we will stand up for New Jersey residents and do what is necessary, either through the governor and the legislature, or we will look at provisions in the federal code to deal with it if we have to. I hope it doesn't come to that. Cuba. Mira, yo siento el dolor del pueblo cubano. He por décadas trabajado para crear la libertad del pueblo cubano. Y esto es un momento en el cual espero que podemos realizar ese sueño de tener una Cuba libre, soberana, independiente, como lo soñó Martí, y que el pueblo cubano puede decidir su propio futuro. Hemos hablado con el presidente Biden para darle una serie de opciones que espero de que él vaya a ejercer. No solamente el respaldo que le ha dado al movimiento hacia libertad dentro de Cuba y reconocer eso, y reconocer el régimen como esos que actualmente están creando la opresión en Cuba, pero también, por ejemplo, de crear el Internet abierto, mirando el sistema de satélite como una forma y otras formas también, para que el pueblo cubano pueda seguir informándose, organizándose y dejando el mundo saber lo que está pasando en Cuba. Le urgí que actualmente empezamos un movimiento diplomático para conseguir otros países que se unan. No debe ser los Estados Unidos y Cuba, debe ser todos países del hemisferio, de Europa y de otras partes, reconociendo el derecho del pueblo cubano de ser libre. Y también mandando un mensaje al régimen que hay consecuencias por violencias en contra de los manifestantes. Tenemos una ley que se llama Magnitsky, que crea sanciones contra personas individualmente que violan los derechos humanos de otros. Y por último, mandando un mensaje al ejército cubano. Ustedes dicen que su poder viene del pueblo, pues el pueblo está manifestándose. No usa sus armas en contra de sus hermanos y hermanas. Hay un futuro para ustedes en un Cuba democrático, pero actualmente no se tiene sangre en la mano. Esos mensajes ahora son de suma importancia, además de otros esfuerzos, y esperamos que vaya a realizar el sueño del pueblo cubano. Any other questions? Can I translate it into English? So the question was, what about the situation in Cuba? And I said, I feel passionately, as the son of Cuban refugees, the cause of the Cuban people. I have for decades been in a fight to try to create freedom and democracy inside of Cuba, and for the people of Cuba to be able to enjoy the freedoms we enjoy in the United States, to choose who governs us, to worship as we please, to speak freely without fear of the government. I appreciate very strongly the comments that President Biden has made in solidarity with those who are seeking freedom inside of Cuba. I appreciate his comments about the regime. I appreciate his call to the regime not to create violence against the protesters. And I ask him to go further, reminding them that there is a law in the United States called the Magnitsky Law that can sanction individuals who are human rights violators. I also hope that he will help the people of Cuba have a free internet so that they can continue to communicate with each other, to be able to organize together, to be able to let the world know the violence that is taking place against peaceful protesters. And I think there are many ways to do that, including satellite. I've also asked him to have a diplomatic surge to get other countries. It shouldn't be the U.S. and Cuba. This should be the Western Hemisphere, Europe, and others who should be giving echo to the cries of the Cuban people who simply want basic freedoms. And lastly, to send a message to the Cuban military. The Cuban military's logo is, "We draw our power from the people." Well, the people are protesting. The people are crying out for change. Don't turn your guns on your brothers and sisters at this time of their crying out for change. There is a place for you in a democratic Cuba, but not if you have blood on your hands. Those are some of the messages that the administration has sent, some that I hope they will send, some actions I hope they will take, because this is a moment in time unlike any I've seen in someone who's followed Cuba for decades. The breadth and scope of the protests are pretty massive, and the repression of the regime has become more brutal. Why does a country shut down the internet? Only because they're afraid of their people. Otherwise, you don't do that. Thank you all very much for joining us today.